All right. Thank you, Dr. Thomas. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of the Sarah Stevenson Tuesday Forum. My name is Winston Robinson. I am your moderator today and facilitator, along co-facilitators, Ms. Laura McClady, Ms. Carlenia Ivory Canty, Ms. Jackie Edwards Walton, our timekeeper, Ms. Natalie McElrath, Mary Johnson, who is not here today, Steve Johnston, our archivist and website editor, and our chaplain, Ms. Sarita Sherrill. Our forum runs from 8:30 a.m. to 9:45 a.m., at which we will pause for announcements from the audience. Announcements can be sent to S. Johnston with a T, at TuesdayForumCharlotte.org to be sent in our email blast. We always begin with a prayer. Again, our chaplain is Ms. Sarita Sherrill, who is not here, so we will ask Ms. Jackie Edwards Walton if she would lead us in a word of prayer.
Almighty Father, we are so thankful. We are so glad to be here among folk of like minds. We ask that as we go through with the proceedings today of the Sarah Stevenson Tuesday Forum, that we do things decently and in order, and that the information that we receive, it will sink deep within us, and that we will carry it so that others may know of what was shared today. All of this we ask in the name of the soon coming King. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Ms. Jackie. So a few housekeeping rules, please. We're going to have a moment for silence. That's when you take your phone and put it on silent. Don't be the one. Make sure our phones are on vibrate. This is an open room, so people will come in and out throughout the day. And of course, the word after 2020, this is a live streaming. This will be live streamed, so we have to talk into microphones, even though it's a small room. If we have any guests for the first time, please announce yourselves and your affiliations. If you ain't gonna be on site, you gonna be out though. Everybody coming out. Hey, how you know?
My name is Mel Aishagi. I own a small business, a luxury concierge company in Charlotte.
Say concierge so French.
Yeah.
You really took French.
Hi, I'm Lakeisha Womack. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer with Aspire Community Capital.
Good to have you all. Please join us. This is an open forum every Tuesday. The room is different weekly, and we have different information and presenters. Our guest today is Manuel Campbell, Executive Director, CEO of Aspire Community Aspire Community Capital. He brought members of his team with him as well. And following our presentation, we will take questions from the audience. Please raise your hand and I will add you to a list of questions. I will call on you in which the order your name was added to the list. Questions should be questions in no longer than 30 seconds. Also, once the question is asked, that is the answer you receive. We do not debate. There is no back and forth. We have a timekeeper. Again, this is Natalie McElrath, who has a warning signal. Well, that's the time. That's when it's up. Time's up. And 30 seconds when it's closing. Without further ado, Mr. Manuel Campbell, if you will, please. And introduce yourself and begin your presentation. Have about up to what, 25 minutes maybe? Think that's good? About 25 minutes?
Checking, testing, 1, 2, 1, 2. Excellent. First and foremost, good morning.
Good morning.
Let me say it one more time. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
It's certainly a pleasure to be here, and I thank you all for spending this Tuesday morning here in this venue to learn more about Aspire Community Capital. And as you can imagine, Aspire is deep and genuine to my heart. I am the founder and CEO of Aspire Community Capital, which I launched back in 2016. And we started providing programming in 2019. And our mission at Aspire is around radically transforming lives and communities through small business ownership. And we will kind of talk about various programs that we have that walks you through kind of an experience and what we like to say a family engagement with Aspire. Any small business owner, be they an existing or an aspiring small business owner, we are here to support you. And I brought several of my team members here with me, and I'll let them introduce themselves as well.
Esteemed. Good morning, everyone. My name is Wes Head. I'm the Director of Small Business Lending here at Aspire. Glad to be here with you today.
Good morning, and I already introduced myself, but I'm Lakeisha Womack. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer with Aspire Community Capital.
And we had this fancy, very exotic presentation that was going to have, it had lights and all kind of stuff, things popping out from the ceiling and what have you. But unfortunately, we won't be able to share that with you today. And perhaps we can send the presentation out at the end of this meeting. But the thing that we'll start with, or at least I'll start with, is to really start talking about the experience in the small business ecosystem, particularly the small business ecosystem in Charlotte as it relates to minority-owned businesses. One of the key focuses of Aspire that we have now, we'll kind of talk about the various products that we offer, is finance made simple, success made possible. And what that really harnesses on is an ongoing dialogue that we feel like we have as an organization with the small business ecosystem here in Charlotte. No matter where we go, no matter what venue we're a part of, we continuously hear that access to capital continues to be an ongoing challenge for a lot of minority-owned businesses here in Charlotte. And I welcome the feedback, I welcome the insight and perspective. Just don't hurl or throw anything at me, if you will, but I have an unfortunate announcement to make. We don't have an access to capital issue here in Charlotte. What we have is an issue with respect to small businesses that are ready for capital. And that's a tough conversation that we have to have as a community, to really talk about how prepared are our businesses and how do we prepare our small businesses who need capital. How do we build out the infrastructure? How do we build out the capacity for those businesses and those small business owners to really understand the fundamentals and what's essential for an organization like Aspire, which provides microloans ranging from $2,500 to $50,000. What is necessary in order for you to qualify for such a microloan? And mind you, Aspire Community Capital is a community development financial institution. I mean, and it's a term that you'll hear often, probably CDFIs. If you were involved with PPP, and you may have heard of us through the Beyond Open Grant, because we not only provide in our source as well as a resource of capital, we also provide technical assistance. And what I mean by technical assistance, that means that we provide training as well as coaching for small businesses. So let me work back now. So not only did we provide cohort training, but we also provide coaching in addition to access to capital for small businesses, particularly those businesses in underserved communities. And so the way we kind of think about ourselves is we provide a holistic approach to small business support. However, within that framework, we've been able to identify some of those essential challenges that we've run up against as it relates to how do we support these small businesses and what are some of the essential pain points of small business ownership here in Charlotte. And again, there's this ongoing dialogue that we hear about. I mean, we do hear about other things besides access to capital, but one of the key pieces that we want to address, or one of the key challenges that we want to address, is the reality that we are a source of capital for small businesses. We just need to help prepare those businesses to receive the capital that we have available and meet some underwriting criteria that is not just essential for receiving a loan from us, But just as importantly, it's fundamental to them running an effective, successful, and sustainable business. I know we have the presentation that we will share with everyone, but I'll kind of pass the mic to Wes, and he'll kind of start talking through some of our financial products. So you want to go next, Lakeisha? Okay. We'll pass it on to Lakeisha, and she'll kind of speak more in depth about some of our program offerings, and then we'll kind of circle back to Wes, and then we'll certainly open it up for a discussion as well as insight and perspective that I might add as well.
So before we get into the fun part, the loans, I want to talk about some of the programs that we offer. So how many of you have a business plan for your business? How many of you enjoy doing the financials in your business plan? How many of you track your financials from your business plan? Very good. That means we have a reason to stay in business, because that's what our programs are essentially designed to do. We want to be the premier resource for financial education for business owners, because we understand that a lot of you enjoy doing the thing that you do, but when it comes to the back end operations, the finances, that's when your eyes start to glaze over, you push it to the side, and as Manuel stated, when you go to get a loan or a grant or any type of funding, that's the first thing that they look at. So you can have a beautiful business plan with all the wonderful narratives and pictures and products, but if the numbers don't make sense, then you're not going to get the funding. So we have 3 programs that we offer: our Access to Capital, our Passport to Capital, which are monthly Zoom-based training. So they're virtual. You can go on our Facebook page and see the last training that we offered, which was around financial documentation. So if you're thinking about applying for the Beyond Open grant, or if you're thinking about getting a loan and you're trying to figure out what do I need to have in my financial packet, then we have a webinar that we just produced a couple weeks ago around that topic. We also have a series that we're doing with Fifth Third Bank called Urbanomics. And so for any of you who are contract-based businesses, you're trying to figure out, how do I manage the cash flow? I know everybody wants to get a contract, but most of the times when you get contracts, they don't pay you for that contract until 30 or 90 days after you have performed the services. So the question becomes, well, how do I pay my employees? How do I pay for the goods? How do I manage my cash flow? So we have a series with Fifth Third Bank where we're addressing those issues and helping you to figure out, how do you manage cash flow? How do you get working capital? We also have a 2-day training coming up in October, which is our Access to Capital. So if you haven't done the financials for your business plan, or if you need your financials completed, your your income statements, your balance sheet, your budget, we're going to do a 2-day boot camp where we're going to sit down, close the doors, get some food, and dig into it. And then after that session, you'll have access to consultants who will help you with the fun parts of your business plan, the operations, the marketing, the human resources aspects. So those are our 2 signature programs that we offer, the virtual trainings and then the in-person trainings. But we also have one-on-one coaching. So I'm the premier coach. I've been a business consultant for almost 20 years. I've worked with almost every business that you can imagine. So if you want to sit down with me for 30 or 45 minutes to just talk through your business ideas, to figure out, like, am I making money? One of the sessions that we have coming up in December is, can you afford to discount? We know during the holidays, everybody wants to have a sale, right? Well, if you don't know how much it costs you to produce your product, sometimes people are discounting to the point where you're paying people to buy your product. So we're gonna, sit down and help you to figure out, like, am I really making money in this business? Or is it a hobby? Or are you paying people for you to operate your business? So those are the signature programs that we offer. Really interested to hear any feedback that you all have, or any sessions that you would like to see us develop training around, because we will be putting together our programming for 2025, and we want to make sure that we're meeting the needs of the small business community. So I'll turn it over to Wes to talk about the fun part, the loans.
Thank you. So on to the fun part. So good morning again, everyone. I know we had a few people that came in after the introductions. My name is Wes Head. I am the Director of Small Business Lending here, and I just wanted to speak a bit to a couple of our signature loan products, the first of which being Finance Made Simple. So this is for businesses that have a smaller need, lending me up to $10,000. So one thing that I identified, throughout this whole process and, just my career in finance is that a lot of small businesses do not have the financial documentation or financial package needed to submit, for a traditional loan. So we decided to, take it a step further, meet borrowers and applicants where they are, meaning that with this loan, you can borrow up to $10,000, and only thing that is required is a minimum of 6 months of bank statements. So I'll say that one more time. The only thing that's required is just 6 months of bank statements. So with that being said, how we are factoring that, now say if you are a business, say if you're seeking, $10,000, you'll be able to borrow 2.5 times what your average monthly income is, according to your bank statements. And for those 6 months, you have to have at least 3 times what your projected payment amount would be, monthly payment amount would be. Meaning that if you got a loan and the payment was $200 a month, you have to show at least a $600 average balance in your bank accounts for the past 6 months. That makes sense to everybody? Okay, and next loan is our more traditional loan, is the Success Made Possible. So that is for requests $10,000 and above with a maximum of $50,000. And that is when a full financial package is required. So that includes personal and business bank statements from the previous year, a year-to-date profit and loss statement showing how the business is trending from January to current. And if you have supporting documents such as a balance sheet or personal financial statement, those are always welcome, but primarily just your personal tax return, business tax return, profit and loss statement, and projections. So what we want to be able to see is that if you are have a request for equipment or something like that, you can be able to show what purchasing this piece of equipment can do and how it will scale your business to be able to grow and continue making your payments comfortably. So yeah, I'm gonna circle back to Manuel.
And thank you for that, Wes and Lakeisha. I think as Wes talked about the loan products that we have with respect to Finance Made Simple, Success Made Possible, particularly one of the things that I'm most interested in is the Finance Made Simple piece. Because we do have a lot of inquiries with people who need anywhere from $2,500 up to $10,000. And part of what we realized, as Wes stated, within that space is a lot of these small businesses who need loan amounts in that range typically don't have financial statements, or at least monthly financial statements. And part of that, I think, is one of the reasons why we exist is that we can help educate and inform these small businesses about the importance of having, if not monthly financials, at least quarterly financials that you're reviewing. And we can certainly help you with that process so that, as Lakeisha referenced in her statement, that you can see if you're making money or not. You would be amazed at the number of businesses that we talk to, we work through their financials, and once we finish walking through their expenses, they realize that they're either not making as much money as they thought, or they're losing money. And it's because they haven't effectively allocated and understand all the expenses associated with them creating their product or providing the service that they're providing. Let that sink in for a minute. They're running businesses, but they're losing money. And the other part to that we do have a rich and in-depth conversation about, because there's an expense and then there's the revenue side. And the revenue primarily is, what are you charging for your service and or product? And I know we are all in this space that we complain every time we go to the store and grocery stores and what have you, and the cost of food and the price of chicken and the price of eggs and the price of gas. Well, there's a reason that the price is typically what the price is. And there are exogenous factors, there's market factors that contribute to that, but there's also the cost associated with them being able to provide whatever that service or product is. And small business owners are facing those same challenges. And we do have conversations not only with our small business owners around price sensitivity, but we also have conversations with the community about price sensitivity. Because you can't count the number of times I've heard someone say, well, I went to Family Dollar, I went to Walmart, then I went to, I'm gonna talk about this black-owned business, and the price was twice as high. And we do try to inform the community about there's just a purchasing power that, that Walmart and Family Dollars have, that the small business owner just doesn't have yet. And that's part of the reason and what's responsible for the price differential with respect to those type of products and services that you might be purchasing. And I know all my small business owners will pat me on the back for saying that, because I know a lot of them kind of have heard the same level of feedback. So when we're engaged in discussions like this, we're not only want to inform the small business owners and help them with respect to some of the challenges that they might be facing, but it's also our responsibility to inform the public so that we are a little less sensitive or a little more sensitive when we see some of the challenges and better understand some of the challenges that small businesses in our communities face. And we can help more than be critical of those businesses, try to provide feedback in perspective around how you feel as a customer. And as long as you feel like you're receiving proper service and no quality products, given the price point for that respective product or service, then we would hope that you will continue to solicit and support that business as much as you possibly can.
We'll open up the floor for any questions, comments.
Oh, all right. Okay, so the way we have it at the forum, they've already raised their hands for a question, so we'll administer that portion of it, and then let you take it from there. The first question will come from Mr. King Coons.
Good morning. I didn't raise my hand as you asked those questions because I'm retired. Are there other minority-owned companies in the Charlotte-Mecklenburg area like yours? And to what extent does yours reach out beyond the collective Charlotte-Mecklenburg and immediate area when we have now with technology, national and global marketplace?
I'll address the first part of it. There are other organizations that provide technical assistance. I would say Next CLT, you may be familiar with Amp Up Charlotte, which I think I was here and they did another presentation, which is the city's program. There's Rise Up, Boost Pad, and what is it, Get Up and Grow? I think it's Get Up and Grow, which is a county program. And so in essence, we are all provide technical assistance to support the small business ecosystem here in Charlotte. Aspire is the only one that not only provides technical assistance, but also is a source as well as a resource of capital. So there are other CDFIs that kind of operate similar to we do, but not as robust of technical assistance programming that we provide. And how would you rate the our reach beyond the scope of Charlotte and even regionally?
So currently our footprint is mainly in the Charlotte area, but we are expanding outside of Charlotte. So one of the requirements of a CDFI is you have to identify what your track is, who your primary customers are. So I think it's 75 or 85% of our customers have to come from low to moderate income communities in the Charlotte area. That's kind of what designates you as a CDFI. So that's why our primary footprint is in the Charlotte community. But we are able to provide financial services outside of the Charlotte area as well.
All right. Ms. Jackie.
My question was similar to Ken's, and thank you so much for coming. I was going to ask, what is the difference between you and maybe a self-help credit union and a National Institute of Minority Economic Development? I came out of the community economic development from the 1990s with Andrea Harris, and then but but I'd like to know the difference, and also, what are you gonna be doing, for Midweek, which is, the Minority Economic Enterprise Development Week coming up?
Great question, thank you. We are very similar in the sense of our mission with respect to the Institute. And I had the blessing of getting to meet and having the opportunity of relatively getting to know Andrea Harris as well. And as we know, she was an amazing and phenomenal woman. And so the Institute is a community development financial institution as well. Self-help is also a CDFI. What our focus on is more in the micro business space, meaning that our focus is primarily providing micro loans ranging from $2,500 up to $50,000. The Institute certainly services that market, but preferably I think that their space and their focus with respect to the type of loans they want to do is usually a little larger than the micro loans that we provide. Self-help, on the other hand, is certainly a CDFI, but they, like many CDFIs, is really focused on the affordable housing space, which is certainly much needed, but it's just a little different than the niche that we serve through Aspire. So our primary focus, and when we kind of work and engage with the community, is just to share with them, particularly our emphasis on micro businesses, those businesses that have anywhere, and I would say on average, maybe 2 employees, at best, maybe 4 to 5 employees. And we want to help those businesses grow and be able to scale accordingly.
And we haven't finalized our activities for Midweek yet.
Mr. Campbell.
Good morning. Pleasure to hear from you all today. I've worked with Vanguard, NACA, and Allstate. And with companies with a lot of capital, I'm always skeptical of how.
Speaking to the mic. So
companies with a lot of capital, or offering capital especially, I'm skeptical about how they think about capital. Could you just say for me, someone going through post-traumatic stress, what of your philosophy should first trigger me to understand like we are not, you spoke about some distinction, but could you elaborate?
And I greatly appreciate that question. And let me expand it. And this isn't a criticism of traditional financial institutions, but it's just a differentiator of what Aspire does relative to other financial institutions, be they banks, credit unions, what have you. So one of the things that I think gives us and gives me a great level of satisfaction is that we have control over our own underwriting criteria. And in Weston, we have a team of certainly credit committee that goes through the process and helps us assess each application. But ultimately, we are here to serve the small business community here in Charlotte and regionally. And if for whatever reason we have an underwriting criteria that's preventing us from deploying capital, then in my mind, as a CEO, we need to change our underwriting criteria. Because our whole purpose is to be able to deploy loans. And if we're not deploying loans effectively into the community that we serve, then we're doing the community a disservice. And so I'm always open to hearing feedback in terms of how we might modify and or adjust our underwriting criteria to make sure that we can meet you where you are. And ultimately, and please don't confuse it, we need to get paid back. We need to get paid back. But the question is always a matter of how do we adequately and fairly assess your business to determine your effectiveness to be able to pay us back. And that's kind of how we think about, underwriting criteria. And as Wes shared in terms of Finance Made Simple, one of the things that we identified was those businesses that need loans under $10,000 don't have financial statements. And it was cost prohibitive for us to require you to bring those financial statements because you have to go get a CPA and you have to pay the CPA and what have you. And by the time that you come back to us, the amount that you need as a result of our requirement to get those financial statements is beyond the $10,000 then. And so we try to be sensitive around that and make sure that as we ask for documentation, that documentation fits where you are. and that you can bring that documentation, and then we can properly assess your application at that point. And the thing that I'll add, and Wes kind of talked about this, it's interesting even as we now just require bank statements. Because I think, what is it, that you have to show that you have you have to show that your monthly balance.
3 times the monthly loan payment.
Guess what? It's hard for us to find businesses that qualify to that criteria. And you want to know why? They're taking, a lot of small business owners are taking all the money that they generate monthly out of their bank account. Either they're paying expenses or paying themselves, or maybe they've run into a challenge or what have you. So the things that we are trying to, again, to be mindful of in our underwriting criteria, we just need to be sure that you can show a cadence as well as the commitment to being able to repay the loan that we may be able to provide for you, given your current business needs and business growth patterns.
I just wanted to echo a couple of things that Manuel said. So we are in the work of deploying capital. And, at a traditional lender, it's more so, hey, this is the criteria, this is the box. You fit or you don't. And if you don't, hey, maybe we can revisit this conversation, 60, 90 days from now. And we have a box, but the beautiful thing is that if we are seeing that we're not servicing or serving people, we can reconstruct that box and make it fit, and make it work. And not to say that we don't have criteria. As Manuel mentioned, these are loans. They're not grants. You do have to pay them back. But essentially, all of this financial documentation is just to assess your ability to repay the loan. Because just as a lender, how we want to get paid, we want to satisfy it. As a borrower, you don't want to bite off more than you can chew, per se. So you want to be in a position to where you're comfortable in your business and you personally as an individual. So to your point, so a lot of different differentiators, just from the aspect of a more traditional bank, you may have to be in business for 2 years before they would even consider you. A lot of times you can't take micro loans. It has to be at least $10,000 that you have to borrow. Or you have to make, X amount of revenue, or your credit score has to be, X amount, where we'll come in and we'll work with businesses with FICO scores low as 550. And we do consider a relationship, and we always say, life's sometimes, things happen. So we would definitely, consider if you're able to speak to a challenge in a period of your business or a time the world's a struggle, and that's something that we will, consider during the underwriting process.
And I just want to add another thing that I think makes us different is during your loan with us, we offer post-loan support. So our goal is not to be like a payday lender where you get a loan from us and then you stay in the CDFI space. Our goal is to help you, whatever the challenges were that prevented you from getting a loan from a traditional bank, during the time that you're working with us on your loan is to help you fix that. So if it's your cash flow, to help you figure out all right, how can we help you make more money and keep more money in your business? If it's, your profitability, whatever the challenge is that prevents you from going to a traditional lender, by the time your loan is finished with us, you should be in a position where you can go to a Bank of America or Wells Fargo and get traditional lending. So that's one of the partnerships that we're developing with banks is to say, hey, your customers that can't get approved through you, send them to us so that we can help them fix those challenges so that they can become bankable with traditional lenders. So we really want to have a relationship with you, and it's not just transactional. So that way we can help alleviate some of that PTSD.
All right.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. I think it's definitely fate, but that's what I'm actually about to ask you guys is more so I'm wearing my other hat. How do you all engage with community partners or other organizations and nonprofits? And I'm asking that in regards to, I'm with an organization right now. We're focused on these 2024 elections, but we know there's gonna be an after elections. And you guys got information that I know our network would love to have access to. So how do you all engage with organizations like those?
Thank you for that question. We work with a lot of different organizations, and one of the things that we certainly have a focus and an emphasis on is community engagement. Some of our partners include Les Charlotte. We work closely with Goodwill. We work closely with Charlotte is Creative. We have ongoing relationships. And it's interesting you brought up the upcoming election, because we believe, and certainly I try to foster a holistic approach to community engagement. Yeah, at the end of the day, we are a financial institution, but as I shared before, I think it's imperative for us to have a community, what I would consider to be footprint. Because I think that footprint is important for us to be able to reach the demographics of small business owners that we want to reach. And I believe that has to be a holistic approach. So as we see issues that are presented and are pertinent to our community, we want to be a part of that. So with the upcoming election, I know one of the things that Lakeisha is certainly pushing and that we have an initiative around is a Vote for Your Business campaign that'll be coming up. And I'll let Lakeisha kind of share a little bit about that upcoming event as well.
Yeah, so, through our social media, we're, emphasizing why business owners should vote, because a lot of times people don't consider the impact on elections and businesses. And just understanding that your elected officials have influence over zoning laws. They have impact over healthcare policies. And so we have some posts that are coming up just to help people understand the connection between voting and businesses. On September 17th, which is National Voter Registration Day, we have 3 events that we'll be hosting in the city, helping people to make sure that their voter registration is up to date, encouraging people to register to vote, as well as bringing some elected officials to talk about the impact of voting on business owners. So we're very committed to ensuring that business owners, especially Black business owners, are registered to vote and that they have their family members registered to vote, because as a CDFI, one of the things that we didn't mention is that part of the way we get our funding is through the Treasury. And so we understand that there are certain administrations that do not see the importance of funding institutions such as ours, because they think that you should just be able to go to the bank or, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Whereas other administrations do see the value of investing in low to moderate income communities, and they're willing to fund programs such as CDFIs to ensure that we're able to deploy capital into those communities. So we can't tell you how to vote, but we can tell you that you need to ensure that who you vote for sees the value of investing in low to moderate income communities through programs such as CDFIs. So it's our goal to ensure that you understand the impact of your vote, not only in your childcare spaces or in healthcare spaces, but also in your business space.
I'm a product of immigration, and I'm a product of segregation. So under segregation, it seemed to me we had more businesses because it was forced upon us. So what can we do to get more businesses? I remember grocery stores and restaurants where we had cafes, but I remember that, and as an old man, it stunned me that under integration we have less than we did under segregation, because under segregation it was forced upon us. So what can we do about that?
Well, I think Manuel spoke to it. You have to support Black-owned businesses. It's amazing to me how people say we want more Black-owned businesses, but then you don't support them. And so, they need money to stay in business, and you can't wait until you see how everybody else, feels about the business before you go and support them. Most Black-owned businesses fail. Well, most small businesses, period, fail within the first year. And that's because people are waiting to see what other people think about the business before they go and support them. In the meantime, they still have to pay rent, they still have to pay utilities, they still have employees to pay. So if you want more Black-owned businesses in your community, you have to make a conscious effort to support those businesses. That's one of the reasons why we don't have Black-owned grocery stores and pharmacies, because they can't compete with the Walmarts if you're not going and giving them your dollars. And that's also recognizing, as Manuel said, they don't have the same benefit of buying in bulk as a Family Dollar or a Walmart. So the price is gonna be a little higher. So you have to decide, do I want Black-owned businesses in my community enough that I'm willing to pay a little bit more to keep them in business? Or if you don't, then you have to be honest about that and say, I want to spend less money, but that also means I'm going to have more Dollar Generals and Family Dollars in my business, in my community, than mom and pop owned businesses. So I think it's a decision and a conversation that we have to have as a community and to be realistic about it. Are we willing to pay more to support these businesses, or do we want to save money and then we end up having more big box retailers?
And the only thing that I would add to that, because I think that's excellent perspective, Lakeisha, is the best form of capital is revenue. Yeah. The best form of capital is revenue. So these businesses, at the end of the day, what they need is more sales. That's how you grow a business. You sell more. As a matter of fact, when we're giving them a loan, the expectation isn't that we give them a loan and they remain stagnant where they were prior to us giving them the loan. We're giving them the loan with the expectation that they're going to grow, i.e. they're going to increase their sales, i.e. they're going to increase their revenue to be able to effectively pay us back. And so, yes, I do understand and I can relate to the challenges that integration has posed, but it's also giving us profound opportunity. And I think that sometimes that opportunity is lost. And sometimes choice isn't the best option for us. To your point, sir, we were forced to buy from Black-owned businesses. Now we have choice whether or not to buy from Black-owned businesses. And I would hope that we would choose to do so as opposed to choosing not to do so, which we see a lot of people choosing not to do so. And I'm not taking away the responsibility of the business owner to provide a safe environment, to provide high quality customer service, which we often try to help businesses with as well, providing, the employees with comparable pay that they would get in other spaces. But at the end of the day, as I like to say, the employees and the people who support their business and the vendors who support that business typically are also people who look like them. If your kid isn't showing up to work on time, that affects that small business. If your nephew isn't showing up on time, that's affecting that small business. And that feeds into this narrative around the lack of customer service that we see and ultimately leads to a lack of support for those businesses. So there's a holistic conversation that we have to have as a community about our community that ultimately affects the small businesses within that community.
Quest for the colder ice. All right, Shane.
Thank you guys for being here. I'm just interested, I do a lot of work with youth in the community. So I'm interested in your backgrounds, whoever wants to answer that. Like, what attracted you to the finance industry? Tiny bit about your path there, and then what opportunities do you see, or what sectors do you see the most growth potential for underserved community youth to pursue?
I'll start off. I am a Charlotte native. I went to West Charlotte High School my 10th grade year, but I graduated from Providence Day School. Went to Providence Day, I went to undergraduate at Morehouse, and always had a passion for finance and things of that nature. Studied at the London School of Economics and some other opportunities that presented themselves. Started actually in investment banking here back in Charlotte, and ultimately moved around to Boston and DC, and eventually back to Charlotte. And to be quite honest and transparent with you, both my parents were small business owners. And one of the things that I knew is not only did I have a passion for small business, but I knew I wanted to help small businesses, people who were like my mother and my father. And my goal was to take my academic learning as well as my professional learning and think through how might I help businesses like that were owned by my mother and father. And that's what birthed the concept. That was the genesis of the concept for what eventually evolved into Aspire Community Capital. How do I think about what do I think the future opportunities are? You know, Charlotte is an interesting place as it relates to small business. And it's not even a tale of two cities, it's like a tale of four cities. And it just depends on which street you're on and who you're talking to, what influences that tale that you receive or you hear. I think that there are small micro businesses. I think that they are kind of high growth, high tech, infotech type businesses that we hear a lot about in Charlotte. I think that there is kind of almost a underground black market of people just hustling on the side type market that we hear about in Charlotte. So it just kind of depends on what it is and who it is you're talking. Again, is a profound opportunity because I don't think that, you know, let alone Charlotte having a city identity, the small business ecosystem is struggling to find its identity as well. And we have the opportunity to kind of shape what we want that identity to be. And we just want to ensure at Aspire that the businesses that we work with are part of that conversation in terms of defining that identity. They got here fast though. They're in the building. Oh, they're in the building. Okay, I was about to say, I noticed that. Trying to serve the
Okay, so
This is our hostess, the
thank you so much for the assistance. So I started consulting, helping business owners. Moved to Charlotte in 2016 to work on a presidential campaign. I'll let you all figure out which one. And then through a series of events in life, I decided I wanted to have a CDFI. And, you know, as God ordained it, I met Manuel, who already had a CDFI. And instead of starting my own, I was able to step in and help him. And I think for me, that's one of the lessons as business owners is sometimes you have a vision to start your own, but it can be more beneficial to help somebody else. And so rather than us compete in this space, we were able to work together and help to build a vision that he already had, and me taking some of the trainings that I've had around developing CDFIs and bring it to his vision. And so, you know, I'm just incredibly blessed to be able to operate in this space. I do have an 18-year-old son, and one of the things that I think for the future of youth is understanding that they are more interested in the gig economy. So a lot of them want to be their own boss, but helping them to also understand that just because you want to be your own boss doesn't mean that you have the skill set to be a boss. And so educating our youth on what does it mean to be a good team player. And so just because you want to be the boss, you have a vision, how do you take that vision and maybe help someone else implement their vision? Or how do you partner with someone else so that you all can work together? And I think that that's going to be a huge challenge that we're going to have with this generation, but also a huge opportunity with them.
Okay, so a bit about my background. Like Lakeisha, I too am a transplant from Cleveland, Ohio. My dad was an entrepreneur, small business owner, and I can tell you 100%. Looking at this with adult eyes and just being, you know, in the finance and banking world, that he would be an ideal candidate, you know, to participate in all of our programs. And I can tell you that I would not give him a loan because I know he didn't have financials of doing everything. And I say that to say that, you know, small businesses as a community, especially minority-owned businesses, we do the best with what we have. And I've been in Charlotte for maybe about 10 years now, and prior to banking, I was in retail management, and I got into banking, and it was just eye-opening to me about how much I did not know about finance. And you know, I'm at work, and you know, I am in a position where I am helping others with their finances, but I'm learning so much at the time, and you know, they don't teach you this stuff in school, you know, so I was good and grown before I learned, you know, how important my credit score was. And you know, I know we as a people, a lot of times we may look at credit like, oh, you know, I don't need that, or you know, not important, but you know, just individually and as a business owner, it's critical, you know, that we educate ourselves and take advantage of the resources and tools that are out here for us. You know, speaking of the youth, when I was working with a traditional lender, we have programs such as Young Bankers Club, where we would go out to schools, you know, from elementary up to high school, and just talk about finance, you know, building blocks of finance. You will be surprised how many folks might come into a bank and don't even know how to fill out a check, or just do just the basic, you know, just accounting things. And it's important that we are hands-on and engaging with that as a community. So I know we have partnerships with institutions such as Fifth Third Bank, who get out into the community and are really putting that work in and teaching folks, you know, from a young age and grooming them, you know, so as whatever they aspire to be, whether it be small business owner, whatever the case is, they are a better position to be successful. So, you know, one thing that I realize, you know, I'm really passionate about helping, you know, the underserved or overlooked communities, because that's where I come from, and I understand that the playing field is not level. So, you know, being in the positions that we're in, to be able to support and assist folks, you know, that look like us, cut from the same cloth as us, and experience the same challenges, is very rewarding, very rewarding. So I really enjoy the work that I do and the team that I do it with.
And I would just add to that, because, you know, it's interesting when we talk about people becoming a boss or people running their own business. And, you know, I often affectionately say that one of the things that Aspire does is takes hustlers and makes them CEOs. And what do I mean by that? Because I can tell you right now, every CEO I know is a hustler, but not every hustler becomes a CEO. And what I mean by hustler, I mean those people who are trying to just make ends meet, who running a business and trying to figure it out and having to figure it out and trying to, you know, as they say, rob Peter to pay Paul. One of the things that we know that's partly responsible for that is just them understanding the internal operations of actually how you run a business. Most people who get into entrepreneurship didn't go to school to be an entrepreneur. And they definitely didn't teach them how to be an entrepreneur in high school, or didn't teach us to be entrepreneurs even in college. And so the question becomes, well, how do you learn how to run a business? And the reality is that that's one of the voids, in my opinion, in our educational system. Now, that's a much different tangent that I could go down, but the reality is that there are sources and resources like Aspire available to help small business owners who are still hustling, to help them understand how you become a CEO / boss. Because I think that those are profoundly two different skill sets. And we just want to make sure that we can, in our community, that we have the resources through Aspire to help these business owners understand the nuanced difference between hustling and actually running a business. And that's the space that we operate in.
All right, we got Jay Hill. I have a question. Then Ms. Mary, Tommy, Mr. Coons, and Ms. Edwards Walton.
Hey Manuel, it's Jay Hill. Hey man, good to see you. Glad that you're here. Thank y'all for everything that you're doing.
All right, man. Let's talk turkey. All right, so for a long time, you know, as an entrepreneur, I saw my dad be an entrepreneur. He's been an entrepreneur since the 70s, right? Late 70s. The first half of my career, all I focused on was getting clients. I'm in PR. And so you're just trying to survive, you're trying to work. And man, I started like going out on to South End and different places around Charlotte. And I'm like, man, where are all these people getting this money from? Like where they're just like opening up all these brick and mortar places. And if anybody knows, like Charlotte is not cheap right now when it comes to retail space, right? And so, you know, I guess maybe about 5 or 6 years ago, I started seeing people like Haitian CEO on Instagram where they're talking about building business credit. And it just dawned on me, it's like, man, I feel like I'm hustling backwards just trying to work. And people are going into their business from the very beginning talking about, but this is an important point. I want to talk to you about what's going on in Charlotte. I've heard real estate people talking about people are getting investors and partners and giving percentages of their businesses just so that they can get in retail spaces. These landlords are wanting all of this money. Can you talk about what's going on in Charlotte right now, and also what's the gap between, as far as Black people understanding how to go into a business being bankable?
Sorry.
Yeah, we'll have to start this whole session over to really address the various levels and to unpeel that onion. But I appreciate the question, Jay. So as it relates to commercial real estate, I would agree with you that the challenge with respect to affordable housing is just as profound in affordable office space. There's just not a lot of affordable rental retail space in Charlotte. And that's on the office space side, even and as well, and certainly on the retail space side. So the question becomes, how do we help mitigate some of those challenges? I think that's an ongoing discussion. I think that we as a community will certainly have to start thinking about what does that look like, because I know, the number of people who come into our office who are looking for retail space and just saying, look, I can't afford it. Or, the square footage is way out of my price range, especially when we start again focusing on what their existing expenses are and their revenue currently is, as well as the profits that they're already generating. They just can't sustain a retail space given all those factors. And so I think that that's an ongoing community discussion that we have to have with respect to affordable retail for small businesses. I don't think it's an easy solution, but I think it's something that certainly should be brought to the forefront, Jay. And I think that that's part of the purpose of meetings like this, is that we can have these real, as I like to say, come to Jesus conversations about what's going on in our community. And when we need to raise our hands and say that this is unfair or this is something that needs to be addressed, then we have a footprint as well as a community organization that can do that heavy lifting that certainly needs to be done.
All right, so I have a question. Just fundamentally, there's an artist I listen to by the name of Dom Kennedy, and his record label is OPM, Other People's Money. So when you're black in America, you have to approach systems with, well, you not have to, but you approach systems with skepticism. If I have the money to start a hobby that develops into a business, what is the, not point, but why would it be in my best interest to search for capital or use money that has a debt attached to it instead of my own?
So I'll put my 2 cents in for that. So what you said is completely true. There is a huge disconnect between small business owners, minority business owners, and when it comes to banking and when it comes to debt, and it's frowned upon, and I speak with a lot of the owners, and they take pride in saying, hey, I don't owe anybody anything, I started this, I bootstrapped it, never took out any loans, and it has a connotation that is sort of negative with it. But I think that you may be able to do that initially, and that is sustainable at that point. But if you're really looking to grow and scale your business, I think that you can really have a tough time, if you are looking to move into a brick and mortar space, and you may need equipment. Say you have a laundry business and you need $100,000 worth of equipment. I don't think it would behoove you to spend $100,000 out of your personal savings or out of your business checking or whatever the case may be, when you can go and get a loan and finance that over 10, 15 years, whatever the case may be, and that way you're not depleting yourself. Because say if things don't go as planned and you exhaust all your capital, now you're kind of dead duck in water. I like Dom Kennedy. I'm familiar with him. I'm familiar with the concept of OPM. And I would definitely say you need that to scale. And a lot of folks that I've met, and as Manuel spoke to, somewhat of like a black market, underground market in Charlotte, where folks are, whether they may, be here or immigrants from other places where they don't know what credit is. They don't use credit. Where they're from, it's like, hey, you either have the money for it or you don't. And if you don't, then that means that you can't do it. When that comes to business or even real estate, it may take someone 3 years to build their house because they're going brick by brick and building it as they get the money, opposed to borrowing and financing a home or mortgage for 30 years. You know, so it's a huge difference in that. But I think recognizing the value of that with small businesses, black businesses in particular, we would really be able to scale to another level if we weren't afraid to, you know, take on that debt.
All right, Ms. Mary.
Oh, I think you answered my question because I was going to ask about someone who would come in and get the micro loan and you educate them and all. Do they have a next step? Have you seen them grow to where they could go to a Bank of America and that kind of thing? So that was my question. And also, what is your plan for September 17th? You said you were going to do something that day.
Yeah, I'll jump on the first part of that, because I want to expand off of what Wes was saying to you all. There is a cultural dynamic that I think that exists with respect to a lot of minorities, but particularly black business owners, being fearful of debt. And we don't see that level of fear in other communities. And I'm certain, part of it may stem from our experience and our grandparents' experience, our great-grandparents' experience as they went through the Great Depression and things of that nature. They went to the bank and showed up and the money's gone. And so there was this kind of this inherent fear that was developed and passed along in our culture as it relates to fear of debt.
And associated with that became fear of banks and financial institutions. And so even as we talked about early on in the presentation, one of the things that we talked about was making sure that you have a bank account. More specifically, as a business owner, make sure you have a business bank account to ensure you're separating your business financials from your personal financials. A significant part of what we deal with on the front end and working with businesses who want some of those smaller loans is really around kind of decoupling their business monies that are flowing through and their personal monies that are flowing through because they haven't set up a business bank account yet. And so that's part of what I think is certainly needed, that I think Wes was speaking on in terms of how do we use money and other people's money. And the other thing that I'll say lastly is that typically when someone comes to us, they come to us after they've exhausted all their personal savings. And now they're in a dire condition, which is again why we look at their financials, and their financials don't look like it'll support a loan. And it's because they had savings at one time that they used their savings in essence to fund the business. Ideally, we love to come, the best time to come to us is when you don't need us. That's when you come to me. When you think you don't need us, but certainly come to us.
All right, Pastor Campbell. We got Gary, then we have Ms. Jackie, then we have Mr. Robinson. 30 seconds for questions, 1 minute for answers, please.
Now, that was a great segue, too, because I wanted to speak on, can you elaborate a little bit on the difference between business credit and personal credit? I know when I worked at the bank, I used to explain to folks the slight differentiation is business credit is a little bit more flexible, where if you have someone you're close with who has excellent credit, who doesn't mind going on as a guarantor for that credit loan, you can utilize them or their credit in that business loan as opposed to a personal credit loan. It's just going off of what your information is, and if your credit is shot, then your opportunity to get it then is. So can you speak a little bit more about that? Well, no. I'm on their perspective of using somebody as a guarantor to get a business loan if that guarantor is okay.
Can somebody vouch for you at Aspire Community Capital, basically? Is that right?
So in most cases, you're always going to have to have a personal guarantor, unless you may be like a large mega organization. Your personal credit is always going to be factored in, because when it comes to the underwriting process, we're not only evaluating, just what your expenses and debts are, as a business, what loans have you taken out for the business or any other debt that you have, also you personally. So because we have to be able to evaluate, hey, okay, you may be able to afford this off the business, but when you factor in you are an employee of the business, you pay yourself, you still have to pay your rent or your mortgage and all of your personal debts. So that has to be factored in to make sure that you can comfortably, repay that. Because you guys know, like I know, if it comes down to you paying, a Spire back, or keeping your lights on, or paying for your car, or keeping a roof over your head, who's gonna get paid first? So we have to evaluate to make sure that you're in a space, from business and personal, to be able to comfortably make that repayment. But to answer your question, in most cases, you always have to have a personal guarantee for that loan.
All right, Ms. Jackie.
Yes, I wanted to speak to, you were mentioning primarily young men who want to have a job, do these gigs, and choose not to go to college, so could have. And I know a young person now, he just wants to drive executives here in the city, drive executives, and doesn't have a clue. Can you speak to what you may be doing to help those young folk, because, they have that sense of independence?
So I think, one of the things that I do as a consultant is help people to understand the operations behind the business. So if he wants to drive executives, that's a great gig to have, but there are business operations that need to happen behind the scenes. So, if an executive is your client, then they're going to want to see the credibility that you have for them to feel comfortable getting into your car. So the things that we would talk about is, do you have the right insurance? What is your brand image? Do you have a website? How are they going to book you? So them wanting to drive executives is not the problem. It becomes so what are the operations behind that? Do you understand your pricing strategy? Do you understand that you have to be on time? So, we help them understand how do you operate the business behind the vision. Ahead of time. Yeah, and I think, going to the point about using other people's money or, getting into commercial real estate, my philosophy is dare to dream. Start your business the way you want to end it. So if you know you want to be in a commercial real estate in South End, when you start your business, you might have to start small with an online community where you're getting the revenue together that you can show that you have the potential to operate into that space. And then if you want to get an investor, they're looking at, if I invest in your business and you give me 10%, am I getting 10% of something? Because you can ask for an investor, but if you don't have the numbers, if you don't have the financial documentation to show them how they're going to get their money back in 3 to 5 years, then you're just wasting energy asking for investors. And even thinking about the type of investors that you want to get. A lot of people want venture capital. Well, venture capitalists are vultures. They want to invest in your business, and then they want you to scale so that you can sell and they get their money back. So we even help people understand types of capital to get involved with. So there's so much that goes into the money space, and our goal is to educate people on the financials, educate people on the opportunities, because people spend so much time on the brand, I got a logo, I got a website, but they don't have the understanding of how their financials impact their business. And so when they try to get lending or they try to get investors, they think, well, people are just hating on me because I'm a black person. No, they're hating on you because you don't have the financials to prove your concept. And so we want to make sure that people are financially literate about their business, so that when they go in front of investors or they go in front of a bank, they know what they're talking about and they know their numbers.
All right, we got a little time and a lot of questions, so we're going to go Mr. Robinson, Ms. McCletty, Mr. Coombs, then Mr. Bacala. We got 4 questions and 10 minutes, so please.
Okay, I remember Beatty Ford Road with the black card on the business, and now you go down Beatty Ford Road, you don't see nothing.
Microphone, start your question over.
I said, I remember when Beatty Ford was the black corridor for business. If you lived in a part of Charlotte, you went to Beatty Ford Road because of the businesses. Nobody had businesses but Ritz and Grand. Now, it seems like since integration, we don't have any businesses. You go down Beatty Ford Road, now you see Family Dollar Store, you see all these white businesses coming over taking money out of the black community. Is there anything we can do about that, you know?
We can tell JJ to stop going to South End and come on home.
I think that, and the question is there anything we can do about it? I think the people who own, the individuals who own the space and are managing the space, that's a fair conversation to have with them. Because they have the right to sell or lease the space to whom they choose to.
My question is, can you share with us just the numbers of the businesses that you all have assisted, and just one or two of them that you are proud of, that brings you a lot of joy to think about what you've done in where you are right now? In 2 minutes.
Yes, I'll be short and sweet. So from the technical assistance side, I believe it's closer to about 800 businesses that we've supported, just from coaching and training. But when it comes to lending, 2 businesses that we supported. One being a restaurant in the Charlotte metro area, Mad Dash. I don't know if anyone is familiar with Market on 7th Street downtown. Since I'm there, great food. Stop by, check it out. Corey's the owner. And just recently, Lee's Press and Publishing, which is a book publishing company. So both of those are very near and dear to my heart, our heart, not just because they are the first 2 loans that we dispersed, but these were folks that had no other way to turn. They went for traditional financing, turned away, for whatever reason, and being able to come to us and being able to get that access to capital and that cash infusion to inject into their business is huge, because as Manuel mentioned earlier, and more times than not, when folks come to us, we are their last resort.
And please buy and support Corey's business, Mad Dash, to make sure he can pay us back.
Also, if you ever want to meet a black dude from Alaska, Corey from Mad Dash,
Yeah, absolutely.
is the one. All right, Ms. Coons.
I knew about OPP, but OPM was something new.
Totally different.
Yeah,
but also aligned.
In '96, I'm a firm believer that 100% of nothing is still nothing. And in terms of using other people's money, I needed $615,000 to build a satellite opening truck. In '96, the only second black American in the country with one. And in that process, I found 3 investors, any one of whom could have written me a check. But that's not what we did. We used, by their experience, OPM, other people's money. And in the process, I gave them a share of the company and a plan for buying out their share over terms such that I would then own the majority of the stock, because you can't get $615,000 from a bank where you sign as a guarantor but not liable for any of that money. They were. My question to you is in regards to startup businesses. It seems like you guys are more targeting existing businesses, and for instance a coffee shop that may have solicited your early participation but didn't get it. Then over time, tell me about the percentage of businesses that you have actually accepted to help versus those you rejected. 30%? 75% of the people who come to you get approval? Okay, let me.
I'll start off with Mr. Coons as it relates to the first part of your story. If you're interested at any point in time in coming in a lecture or lead one of our workshops in terms of how you finance a business, we certainly welcome you and will provide the platform for you to be able to do so. As it relates to the second part of your question, we don't turn down anyone. So anyone who comes to us for help, we are certainly open and willing to help. So there is no barrier to entry as it relates to us working with a business and through our organization.
Thank you, Mr. McCullough. On the website, I don't see a place to submit my resume. So just let me know if that's possible. Are you seeking talent right now? And kudos to be on the rural corridor. I'm from Charlotte too, so that to have capital on the road seems to be something too.
I think my email address is on the website. You know, if you want to send your resume to me, you know, we're always looking for talent.
Okay, I'm close with Mr. Picard. Any other questions? Last call. All right, perfect. With that said, if you could please close with a statement, and we will go into announcements.
And I would just say, one, certainly it's a pleasure to be here. The thing that I will champion and continue to articulate is that this room should be full every Tuesday. And I think we have to do our job in terms of getting people who can attend to make sure that they do attend. Because the wealth of knowledge that's shared about the community is so important and can lead to such a profound impact, and that the more people we have in this space, the better off our city will be. So I thank you again for having us here. If you would like for us to come back and present it another time, we're certainly welcome to do that. But thank you again.
So this is my first time in attendance here, and I think this is great. As Manuel mentioned, you'll probably see my face more often here, just to familiarize myself with more small businesses and just making sure we're doing our part in, getting this, letting people know that this is, something they can come and attend, and bring some takeaways, some knowledge, and build some connections. Man, this was good. This was good. I know I'm just sitting up here, I'm just kind of soaking it all in right now, but this was good. I'm glad that you guys invited us, and we would love to come out again. If there are any questions, there were a lot of questions. I appreciated the engagement. Definitely reach out to us. Our phone numbers, email addresses are online. We'd love to connect with you and have a deeper conversation.
If you could give them out, so people can get them. The phone number.
So I'll give my email address. It's usually the best way to contact me. So it's Wesley, Wesley, Head, Wesley Head, at aspirecommunitycapital.org. That's ASPIRE, communitycapital.org. And you can follow us on all social media platforms. So Facebook, Instagram. Please tap in with us with that.
I think my parting piece of advice would be, if it doesn't make dollars, it doesn't make sense. Like, I'm all about the numbers, and if you want to get your numbers together, I'm definitely the person that you can schedule a coaching session with. I do coaching on Thursdays, 30-minute blocks to just talk through your business, figure out what your problems are, and to see how we can help you to become successful. Because at the end of the day, successful business owners help to make successful communities, and we all want our communities to be successful. So we got to figure out how to help you make more dollars so that it makes sense.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, please, round of applause for the team at Aspire Community Capital.
One last thing, I would just ask everybody to please follow us on social media. It's Aspire. We will follow back if you follow us. So let's make sure, because that's what we do, deploy and share a lot of our content and information through our social media platforms.
May I say something? I just want to say thank you once again for coming, but we do wish that you would show up a little more often, and we would like, I'm just speaking on behalf of our team for the Sarah Stevenson Tuesday Forum. We are trying our best to focus on small businesses in this environment. Not 100%, but we're designating 2 Tuesdays every month to talk about small businesses. This has been great, but just like you said, this should have been full of people. So Steve sends out over 12 100 emails inviting people. We never know who's going to show up. We never know who's going to show up. But young folk, people are trying, a lot of people are trying to start small businesses, and I think that what you all have said and shared this morning is very, very important to our community right now. So I'm gonna make a decision at some point that we bring you back, but the room needs to be filled with people that are interested in starting small business. So once again, thank you all so much, and this has been very educational for us this morning.
Thank you, Ms. McClellan. Now, before this morning, I failed to mention Dr. Thomas Moore and the facilitators lineup, but he is our house musician. With that said, we will go into announcements. Anything you have to announce for the community?
Good morning. My name is Akosa Willis-Sane. This is my first time here. Won't be my last time. I am the founder of the Willis-Sane Collective. We have two signature programs for Black teachers. One is Sisters in Education Circle. The other is the Black Teaching Tradition Institute for Pedagogical Genius. Our goal is to rebuild the Black teacher pipeline, and we're having a free mixer on Saturday for Black teachers. All educators are welcome. We are especially inviting CMS teachers, but all educators, tutors, community, community educators, things of that nature. People in this room probably already know this, but less than 7% of school teachers are Black in this country. Less than 5% Black women, less than 2% Black men. Some people are looking because Charlotte-Mecklenburg does have a higher percentage, as does Atlanta, et cetera, but it's still not proportionate to the Black student population, even in those large cities. And so a lot of you are talking about, I know you're trying to wrap it up. A lot of you are talking about, why don't Black kids do this and Black kids do that? When we had those Black teachers, it was the Black teachers in the schools who were educated. So when they were teaching science, they were still teaching about small businesses. When they were teaching, economics, they were still teaching about community, partnerships. So we're trying to rebuild that. We'll need 700 new Black school teachers to make the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Black teacher population proportionate to the Black student population. So come out on Saturday.
We need to get you better for that. We're going to get you to Steve. We're going to get you right, but we'll come back and present. Shay?
Just August 24th, 12 to 2, Allegra Westbrook Library Lit Fest is happening. We have Black author Kelly Starling Lyons doing some excerpts from her book, Tiara's Hat Parade, all about the Black church community in Milner, working in that community. Please come out Saturday. She'll be there live, and lots more information on literacy and helping our community grow in that front.
At one point, the Tuesday Forum would meet at 7:30 in the morning, but people got old and couldn't get up. So we went to 8:30, and people who are in business need to be in their offices before 9 o'clock or by 9 o'clock and can't get here. So it is my hope, my desire, that this group will consider starting a bit earlier, 7:30, where people will have time to get the information and get to their offices and do the work by 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
We have accepted that for the past 20 years. Thank you.
Good morning. On Friday at 5 p.m., there will be a grand reopening of Fred Alexander Park over on Callister off Base Ford. So if you want to come out, show your love, show your support. The Mel's Place, founded by Reggie Singleton, they'll also be out there featured for this for Fred Alexander Park at 5 on Friday.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and add one. Go ahead. Oh, yes. Yeah, I just take this one.
I'd like to announce that on next Tuesday, our speaker will be Valeda Fullwood with Black Philanthropy.
And it is Black Philanthropy Week. Month. Yes, they have an event sometime. Is it tomorrow? All right. Y'all look that up. All right.
And on Thursday at our office, I do have some brochures with our contact information. We have a workshop from 5:30 to 7:30 on cash flow management, and we have a CPA that will be coming to make that presentation. So follow us on social media for more details and to register, but I also have some brochures if any of you want one to take home with you with our information.
Thank you. So I tell you what, this is do a soft drop. A vibe called Fresh, the greatest festival on earth, Saturday, September 21st, right at West Complex. It's a collaboration with the symphony. We having a symphony play trap music. But anyway, I'll tell you more later. Dr. Thomas, play us out.
It's the city, the building, that's what